Hey, welcome in. My name is Brad. Let's see if we can activate this camera. Hold on, technical difficulties. Hold on. Why are you not working? There we go. Hey, I am live. Hey, welcome to the stream, everybody. It's good to see you rolling in here. This is my weekly live stream, my weekly news stream where we cover some of like the news things that have happened in like the creative arts industry over the last week or so. Stuff that maybe doesn't fit into its own video, but we want to cover it and talk about it anyway. Got some cool stuff today. We got Procreate 6 announcement that came out last week right after the last stream, and it's actually coming to the Mac. So that's really cool. We also have the new version of Krita, some stuff to talk about there. And then if we have some time, we're going to be going back and talking about DLSS 5 and how it's kind of AI slopifying video games and that sort of thing. How's everybody doing today? Your, your name is Little Brad. It's good to see you all in the chat. I am lagging. I was having this problem when I was recording. I have a new microphone. It's right here, and I have not fixed this problem yet where like the microphone seems to be like the audio is lagging behind everything else. So this is my first time recording with it, and I don't know how to fix it. I was hoping that when I got on stream it would actually be okay, but I guess it's not, which makes me sad. So hopefully, hold on, let me go to I'm gonna turn off that and I'm gonna turn on my small video. There we go. I can see the chat. Let me go here. Hey, as people are filtering in here, I picked out some pretty animations that I found this week. This was one on Twitter that I thought was really cool. So I'm just going to play this in the background as I chat. I love the way they've animated his clothing to move with it because you have this like dynamic animation, but those clothes are moving too. That is really cool. How is everybody? I just got a new iPad Air. Cool. Came yesterday. Super excited. That's awesome. Is that your first iPad? Welcome to the club if it is. If it's just the new Air, then congrats on the upgrade. That's really cool. Mic is good. Is the mic lagging? Like, is my lip syncing up to the mic? I think that's my big question for you guys. Same problem from last week with the frame rate. Maybe bit rate must be too high. That's interesting. I'll have to look into that. When you say bit rate is too high, does that mean I have to set it lower in order to get like kind of a smoother video but less crispness or that sort of thing? Just dropped by to say thank you once again. Since I've been doing art since 2018 and started thanks to you and your Affinity stuff. Cool, thank you. Your video is behind your audio. No, oh, this is gonna be painful for me. Let's see. I have another animation though. While we are here and people are filtering in, I really like this one, Chris and Bauer. Hold on, it's gonna go back to the beginning. You see it like I love. No, keep playing it. I'm gonna hit play. You can see his head kind of squirting out. I love how that turned out. That is just so wild. Love that. This is your second Air. My last one was before the M chips came out. Okay, so this is a big upgrade. The new one is the M4. Yeah, purple. Nice. Nice. I don't think I even talked about the colors of those things in my last video. I think I just talked, like, I kept it all business. I didn't talk about the cool colors that come in. Thank you. Thank you for Crow for the tech review stuff. This is the slow time of year, so I'm experimenting, hence the live stream and what I'm doing here. I don't have anything to review in like the next few weeks. Like there's nothing coming. No one's told me of anything they're delivering. Usually what happens in the tech cycle is like the fall is crazy and there's lots of stuff coming out, and then you have CES and a couple things trickle out, and things are pretty slow in January, February, and then March you have a couple things, March, April usually. So we had a new iPad. We had a 22-inch Huion, we had a 27-inch XP pen to review. That's about it. So I think in April I'm going to be reviewing some monitors and things like that. So let's see. Oh, we got some feedback here. For high quality 1080p 60 frames streaming on YouTube, the recommended bitrate is 6,000 to 9,000. Okay, so I'm at 6,000. Please call it Deeply lame, super slopping when referring to DLSS 5. I will. I like it. I like it a lot. Yeah. Cool. So I'm gonna jump in here. How many people are here? All right, we got a good number. We got a good number. We're gonna get started here. So we're gonna start. So the big story of the week. This is actually 7 days old. This somehow flew under my radar for quite a while. I didn't notice until the weekend. Procreate 6, Procreate Mac. This is a post by James on their website. James is the CEO. He says, "Hey everybody, Procreate for desktop is by far our biggest community request. We've been watching the demand steadily increase over the years, but honestly, we were hesitant to enter the market. A large part of Procreate's success is dependent on the fluid touch gestures is dependent on the fluid touch gestures. Desktop touch displays lag behind the iPad and the Apple Pencil from a performance and accuracy point of view, but recently our perspective has changed." So this is cool. The Mac development environment shares a lot in common with the iPad development environment. So it's actually pretty easy to take an iPad app and get it running on the Mac. The biggest problem that Procreate has run into is the fact that it's a touch only or touch first experience, right? So like there is no magnifying glass icon to zoom in and out. If you want to undo, there's no undo icon. It's just a 2-finger tap on the screen. If you want to redo, it's a 3-finger tap on the screen. So all of that, all of those touch gestures, the entire app is completely dependent on that. So this is a good test of my mic. A plane is flying overhead. If you can't hear it, that means my new directional mic is doing well. So converting Procreate from this iPad app to the desktop, big job, huge job. Haven't heard about the new Procreate either. Hey, Seven Pens is here. Good to see you, man. I dropped in your stream, but I didn't say hi earlier today, but because I had to prep for this one. Doesn't touch on the Mac suck though. Okay, that's one of the big things here is that he mentions right here that a large part of Procreate's success is dependent on fluid touch gestures. Desktop touch displays lag behind the iPad and Apple Pencil, and that's absolutely true. Whenever you use a touch display like I have, you probably can't see it. I have the large XP pen that I was testing last week behind me that has touch, works really well on Windows. You get it over to a Mac, it works okay. You know, it gets the job done. But when you're in Photoshop, when you're in some of these areas like the tracking, like if you use like 2 fingers to pan around your document, the tracking's a little off. Same thing if you're using Sidecar on an iPad, that sort of thing. So yeah, there are rumors that Apple is working on a touchscreen Mac that will be released later this year, like a MacBook Pro with a touchscreen. Really curious to see what that means. And you can hear him say here, what did they say? But recently our perspective has changed. And it really makes me wonder if Procreate knows something that we don't, at least officially. Like we don't officially know that this is coming. Procreate, that team might. Like Procreate's always been this like gem in Apple's crown. You'll see Procreate featured in WWDC talks. You'll see them like whenever they're like going over like cool things that the iPad can do. It's not uncommon to see Procreate in those like videos during keynotes and that sort of thing. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they have some inside info that we do not. I just bought a MacBook M4 Pro Max. Ooh, should I buy a drawing tablet or an iPad? That's a good question. I personally would say iPad. But it depends on the software that you want to use. If you want to use draw in Photoshop and that sort of thing, and that's your main bag, then yeah, drawing tablet's the way to go. But yeah, if you want the portability, uh, probably check out an iPad. You're real. Hi. Yes, I am totally real. Procreate as hold on. Procreate as is on a Mac is going to require Mac users to buy a $700 pen display with touch support. Yeah, absolutely. Like that is the biggest drawback here. I decided to get an S10 Ultra after your videos. I hope you're enjoying that. I really like the S10 Ultra. Microsoft has been thinking about touch on Windows since the 90s, and touch has been deeply integrated since the release of Windows 8. Yeah. So, and I remember when Windows 8 came out, I wouldn't say it was a mess. I liked Windows 8. That's when I started using, I used the Surface Pro 3. That was my first Surface Pro. That was the review that launched this channel like 11 or 12 years ago. Um, and I thought it worked great. But a lot of people, I was coming from the Mac world. So a lot of people who are like hardcore Windows users hated Windows 8. But back then I was like, oh, this works pretty well. I thought that a lot of stuff they did was pretty cool. So he goes on to talk about Procreate for the Mac here. He says, in 2024, we started to receive an overwhelming amount of customer requests to see Procreate on the desktop. As the creative software industry continues to buy into the AI hysteria, we're seeing so many of our competitors no longer listening to the artist community. Who could he be talking about? Who is he talking about here? I have no idea. Since last year, we've been steadily working in the background on this project. I'm excited to share what we are now aggressively pushing to enter the desktop market. Aggressively pushing with affordable, high performance Procreate product that's made for Mac artists. Now, we can't talk about Procreate Mac without talking about Procreate 6 because they're being developed concurrently. Both projects share the same code base and are both powered by our next gen Phoenix technology. It's the same tech powering Procreate Dreams, which makes sense. I think he's talked about that before. Procreate Dreams has its own engine, and they were trying to. In fact, when you first use Procreate Dreams, I think like the brushes like zoomed with the canvas size. It was kind of weird. I could be wrong on that. Maybe that was just the beta version. Um, but yeah, there were some quirks to it, and this most recent version of Procreate Dreams brought it more in line with Procreate, and I think that's what they were working on, is trying to like get this new engine like synced up to the old version of Procreate, so that when you were jumping between Procreate and Dreams, it was a seamless transition. So this makes sense. This totally makes sense. Can I ask you some questions about animation, please? Yeah, ask them in the chat and I'll kind of pop in and answer them as we go. I'm down with that. I'm pretty sure Apple has a share in Procreate. There are more requests for Android than on a Mac. So reading my video comments, I would agree with that I see way more people saying bring this to Android than I see people saying bring this to Mac. In fact, I haven't seen like a lot of clamor for a Mac version, if I'm being completely honest. Like I have seen that. Like I have seen people say that, but like people requesting it on Android, like 10 to 1 compared to asking for it on the Mac. I don't I I don't think it's going to be coming to Android. I think they've really been developing this so it works on proprietary Apple technology for the longest time. It sounds like this new version is doing the same thing. They like working with Metal, they like working in Apple's ecosystem. So porting it over to Android means that they have to like maintain something totally different. So I don't see that happening. The Mac thing makes more sense to me. Uh, I liked Windows 8, 8.1. Oh, also you mentioned like Apple has a share in Procreate. I don't think they do. I think Procreate is a business model is so tiny compared to what Apple does that they don't care. I think they just got lucky. I think that's what happened there. I managed to get the S10 Ultra for $670. Dang, nice. The big one? Are they up to the S11 now? I don't remember. Mine's all packed up somewhere. Otherwise, I'd look it up. Anyway, yeah, that's a good deal. 650 for that giant thing. That is a really good deal. Um, I still don't figure out how to do things in Dreams. Oh, so was that your animation question? No, somebody else was going to ask about animation. Um, any news on the XP Pen working on a new Android tablet? I have not heard that, but I'm sure they are. They released an update to their like a version 2, but they released it very quietly to their Android tablet. So if you buy an Android tablet from them now, it's slightly different than the one I reviewed 2 years ago. Some think that Apple is paying Procreate to keep it Mac only. Okay, I could see that. I could see that. They have Procreate has been so hesitant to like really branch out that it has been kind of surprising. I've also kind of questioned Procreate's business model. Like, I don't know how sustainable it is to charge, $12 for software eternally and just like I bought Procreate. I posted this last spring. I posted my receipt of in 2015, in like April of 2015, I bought Procreate for $6. I've been using it ever since for $6. The best purchase I've ever made in my life. I've built an entire career on that software. I don't know how their business model works. They're obviously a small team. Um, clamor, clamor. I clamor for a Mac version. Good. Well, I'm glad some people are. That's good. I don't think Procreate will be on Android either. Infinite Painter is pretty nice. Infinite Painter is pretty nice. I agree. Let's see where was I? Uh, This will be our most significant update to Procreate ever. Along with being powered by our Phoenix technology, Procreate 6 will come with some big upgrades like more layers, adjustment layers, blending modes on groups. Oh, that'll be nice. iCloud file synchronization. That's what I want. Undo history saved in the files and larger layer than the canvas. Larger layer than the canvas. Okay, I had to think about that one for a second. So what happens, this actually happens in Procreate Dreams. So for example, in Procreate Dreams, if you're animating something, you can take a large image and you can place it there and you can like pan it as the background as it goes over. In Procreate right now, if any part of your image, like if you take your image and you move it, if any part goes off the canvas, it when you let go, when you remove the selection, it cuts it off immediately and you can never recover it without like tapping to undo, right? So that larger layer than the canvas that already exists in Procreate Dreams, it sounds like they're going to be bringing it over here. More layers. So Procreate was built, I've talked about this in all my iPad videos. It was built around the limitations of the iPad. Like back in the day, Procreate came out before the iPad Pro. And what happened to a lot of drawing apps is that the iPads back then had like 2 gigs of RAM, 1 gig of RAM back in the day. I don't know what the original iPad had. Maybe it was only two. But it was very, very, very RAM restricted. And so as you drew and drew and drew and created more layers, as the layers kind of grew in number, what would happen is the iPad would just run out of memory and the app would just completely crash. So Procreate put these like artificial limits around like the size of your canvas and how many layers you could use based on the size of your canvas so that you wouldn't run into that wall, or so that when you ran into that wall, it wouldn't crash. You just run into that wall and you couldn't create more layers. You'd have to create a smaller canvas or whatever. So it sounds like what they're doing now is they have been rethinking this for Procreate Dreams. So that's not going to be a problem. It's just going to work in a different way. It's going to manage memory in a different way. iPads now, even the new iPad Air, comes with 12 gigabytes of memory on the base unit. So it's become less and less of a problem over time. Adjustment layers on groups or blend modes on groups. I mean, I like that. That's a great idea. iCloud file synchronization. This is surprising that this did not happen like 5 or 6 years ago. Right now, exporting stuff from Procreate is kind of painful. I tend to do it one drawing at a time, but you can like select multiples in the gallery, hit export, and I usually export as a PSD because Procreate files can only be opened in Procreate. And since you can't open them on a Mac or on a PC, I always export it as a PSD. So selecting multiple files, exporting them to Dropbox or Drive was always kind of a pain in the butt. And it just took time because it had to actually convert them and then export them. Doing this automatically to iCloud makes so much sense. So much sense. Blending modes on groups gets a thumbs up in the chat. Good stuff. Uh, wait until Procreate 7 drops in 10 years. Yeah, they're probably going to like rewrite the whole thing again. They didn't mention vector layers. That's interesting. That's something that Clip Studio has. Think of it this way. Procreate has been at version 5 for 6 years with one-time payment scheme. Clip Studio has been upgrading annually since they introduced the subscription model. I think what's interesting for me about the Clip Studio subscription model thing is that Clip Studio was like adding features for years before that. And then they said, okay, now we're just going to charge for these big drops, these big like version 2.0, version 3.0. And when it first came out, I was telling people, calm down, like, because everybody was upset about the subscriptions, right? And I was kind of on team, it'll be okay. But then they went to this annualized release schedule, and I think it's really put a lot of stress on them to release new fancy features. So far, it's been fine. Like it hasn't affected like the stability of the app, but I think that pressure to justify the subscription cost could hurt the app long term. Hasn't yet. We're only 3 or 4 years into it, but I'm curious to see where this app is in 5 years. If it gets a little too bloated because they keep adding features without like optimizing things because they need to kind of justify that subscription or what. They're kind of putting themselves in that Adobe spot. But yeah, we'll see what happens there. Da, 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 da. You'd be surprised how far mobile chips have come. I have seen them running desktop games at stable FPS, so Android development cannot be about power. It must be harder for OPR. I don't know off the top of my head. Oh, optimization. It must be harder for optimization. Yeah, I think what it is Procreate is just written um for iPads. And so they would have to I don't know what it would take to actually take an app that was written in one programming language and then move it to Android. Oftentimes what you see is like, I don't know, I'm thinking of something like Krita, which is written in something really boring and then ported over to Android and they can make it work there. Because the Android development environment, I believe, is Java. So they would kind of have to port everything over to that. Um, Larger layers than the canvas will be useful. Yes, that will be useful. Um, I would buy the sub if it meant more quality of life upgrades. Many apps have both subs and one-time purchase options. Yeah, and that's what Clip Studio does. And it's a little confusing to read like their upgrade paths, but I guess it's the best of both worlds. The main thing when you can buy it forever, like if you buy version, what are they up to? 5 now? If you buy version 5 and you own it forever, at least you can open your files 10 years from now if you need to, and that's the most important thing. Sora is shutting down. Woohoo! That's the AI slot machine that that OpenAI put out. That's good. I There were a couple. I remember the first time I saw a Sora video. This is getting way off topic. It was a dog in a grocery store, and it jumped up and it stole a fish from someone who was trying to buy a fish from the like butcher counter. And someone shouted, "That dog stole the fish!" And I was like, "Oh my gosh, how crazy is it that the dog stole the fish?" And then I was like, "Wait, why would somebody be filming from that angle? Why would somebody be filming the dog running out of the store?" Like, I was like, wait a minute, how did this get filmed? Was this staged? And then I realized it was AI, and I felt so cheated. Like this amazing thing that happened never actually happened. Someone just made it to trick me. And I was mad. And I blame Sam Altman. After owning the Move Inc. 11 and trying the 14 on a display, I don't think I'll be able to go back to iPads anytime soon. As good as Procreate is, there's something off with the Apple Pencil to me. And you're not alone in this. There's a lot of people who just really prefer that Wacom stylus. And the fact that they got like the Pro Pen working on an Android tablet is just, it's good. It is really good. That's the first device in a while that's made me think like maybe I should give up my iPad. I have not totally, but I like oftentimes when I review something, when I'm done, I'll pack it up in a box and I'll set it aside. My Wacom tablet is like still right over here. Like it's still, I don't use it every day, but it's out. I try to keep it charged. It kind of comes out from time to time. Oh, here we go. Okay, so this answers the question I have. Maybe. Juan says it's definitely easier to maintain an iPad Mac code base than an iPad Android one. You need probably a whole different team to do a new version and maintain it, as well as ensure parity down the road. That is very well said. And that was something that was in my head. Like, okay, you have 2 code bases, but like that is very well said. I think people are forgetting that you don't own Procreate with a one-time purchase because you cannot download an offline installer to save it for 10 years. That's true. Once Procreate is taken off the store, it's over. And that's a good point too. And that's really the case with any iPad software. That's just the nature of the beast. There was the very first drawing app that I used on the iPad does not exist anymore. I forget what it was called. It wasn't very good, but like I had like a little iPhone drawing app. It was for finger painting. There was somebody did like a New Yorker cover on that one. It was called like Brushes or something. I don't remember. You're not the only one. Other people have mentioned to also prefer the rubber tip of the S Pen also. See, I don't prefer the rubber tip, but I understand. I got used to the rubber tip, and now I can draw with it. But early on, I did not like the rubber tip. All right, back to Procreate. Um, it's which should I read? It's worth a mention. It's worth mentioning. This is a far more than a routine update. It's taking longer than expected. We covered that. We can't release this without surprises, blah, blah, blah. Here's the important part. Developing both projects simultaneously means that Procreate 6 and Procreate Mac will not be released this year. While it may sound disappointing that these projects are most likely arriving in 2027, we deeply feel the next generation of Procreate products will be worth the wait. And this makes total sense to me. I wonder if the reason they're announcing this now is, like I said earlier, they know something about a touchscreen Mac that we don't know yet. But also, I have wondered since day one when these rumors of the touchscreen Mac started like trickling out, is there also Apple's Pencil support on the touchscreen Mac? Like that would be amazing. That's something that I want. They have not said that, but like that, if that exists, that would definitely change my mind about this whole thing and not needing a $700 tablet to make this happen. I like the new S Pen for sketching, but the hard tip is best for line art, in my opinion. Yeah, I could see that. I can see that. I think it's not just the rubber tip, but the latency and the pressure level. There's a very tiny, subtle difference that puts the Wacom Pro pens above, in my opinion, but I can't explain it. Yeah, I agree. There's like yeah, that that is a hard thing to put into words, but there's something about it. And as soon as I used it in Clip Studio, like the official Wacom Pro Pen on Android, I was like, "Whoa, this they've got it here." It's like fire in a bottle. And if you're using like a Wacom tablet on Windows, there's just a little bit more lag to it. There's a little, not a lot, but just a little bit more. And there was something about like moving that entire experience over to Android that was just, it just instantly clicked with me. I thought it just felt so good. I'm gonna, where's my water? Mm. Oh, that feels good. Yeah. So that is Procreate 6. That was not the only Procreate announcement though last week. We also have Procreate 5.5. Probably a little less exciting, but it mentions how the Procreate team is not just working on 6, but they have a second smaller team that's still working on 5. Someone in the chat mentioned earlier that they've been working on 5 for like what 5 years now. They've been on version 5. In 2026, we have a team focused on community upvoted feature requests. We've been trawling through these on the boards and our social media interactions to determine what are the most popular requested features for Procreate. Apart from more layers and blend modes on groups, which will be addressed in Procreate 6, the two asked community features by far are color fill with gap detection and a lasso fill tool. What's interesting here is I've always felt like the color fill with gap detection kind of works. It depends on the size of the gap. I think that's probably the big caveat here. But yeah, if you're using the little slider to like fill in your gaps, it works halfway decently. So both of those are underway, the lasso fill and the color gap detection. That's cool. Our current color drop algorithm will be ditched in favor of a complex new algorithm that will allow far more control over gaps and transparent pixels. Cool. That'll be fun to see. In addition, we have some other new features in development, a new lab color picker, eyedropper on just the active layer. That'll be nice because I add a lot of layers, uh, like I'll add a color layer above things oftentimes. Like I'll color in all my artwork and then I'll like splash a bunch of purple and I'll set that as a color layer at a transparency to kind of pull all those colors into one realm. But then when you go back with a color picker, it'll be totally off. So just being able to select that active layer, grab the color picker, and then paint over stuff, that will be nice. New UX for layer bulk actions, reference window improvements, and a bunch of small fixes and improvements. So Procreate 5, next version will be out in 2026. Brad, congrats on your almost 1 million. Woo! Thank you. I think the 1 million thing at the rate things are going, like people don't subscribe anymore because the algorithm like takes care of all that. I think it's going to be another 2 years before I hit 1 million subscribers. So Wow, the beard. Thank you. I'm going full Santa. Cool. A 5 something upgrade. That's more than 100 new brushes. Yeah, might be. Your directional mic is picked definitely picked up the water. Thank you. I'll move away this time. Mm. Oh, that's good stuff. I use Clip Studios and Concepts and Android. I should use Concepts more. People have told me that Concepts, they're big fans of Concepts, and I should use that more. For Android drawing, what do you recommend? So I like Clip Studio. I'm a huge Clip Studio fan. That's what I like. The downside there is that it's a paid app. I think it's like $2 a month or $3 a month subscription. It's like 20 bucks a year or something like that. So a lot of people don't want to pay that. Infinite Painter is a good choice. Someone just mentioned Concepts. Concepts is a decent one. Um, those are really the ones that I look at. There's also Medibang Paint. There's Krita. Krita has a lot of like interface elements. So if you have a smaller Android tablet, it doesn't work quite as well. But Krita is a really good drawing app too. It's free. It's open source. So that might be worth checking out as well. Do a subathon on road to 1 million. That would be a long subathon. That would be a long, long subathon. Do you plan on making a giveaway? So no, I don't plan on doing any giveaways anytime soon. I did early on in my YouTube career, and basically what that did is it turned all my comments and my email inbox into people asking for products, and it just was kind of overwhelming, and I didn't like it. And I thought it hurt the community, so I stopped doing it. What do we have? Brad just saw the Lenovo 2-in-1s. There's a new Wacom AES 3.0 pen tech in use. Juicy. Yeah, I should check that out. So AES, that's Wacom's other pen tech that I don't like. Maybe it's better. Maybe it's worth checking out. Okay, I'll look into Lenovo's 2-in-1s. Do I know anyone at Lenovo? I don't know if I do. I might have to actually buy that one. What do we have? Does the iPad Pro connected directly to MacBooks work as a graphics tablet? It does, but I'm I- I'm not the biggest fan. There's just a little too much of a difference, even if you're using like a USB-C cable connecting the two. There's just a little too much latency there for me. Like it's solid. Like if you just need to do some touch-ups or fiddle around in Photoshop or do that sort of thing, it works. But what makes it hard is that you're gonna be sitting in Clip Studio or Procreate or whatever you're drawing in, and then you're gonna go over and you're gonna connect it to your Mac and you're gonna draw there and you're gonna be like, this sucks, because you're gonna have this apples to apples comparison of like, this is what it feels like over a line and this is what it feels like organically, and you're gonna be able to see that and you're gonna be like, oh, this is God, I don't like it. Yeah, just a little too much latency for me. Concepts is free with limited tools, $10 for one-time purchase, for more layers and export options, and $30 a year for the whole tool set. So that's good to know. Da, 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 da. Brad, have you looked into Photoshop image rotate feature yet? Like just like Control T and then rotating things? I probably haven't. I'm not familiar with that feature. I'm just familiar with like normal rotating things. Seven Pen says AES vomit icon. Good. I'm not alone on this. I feel justified. Lenovo is launching a new Legion Tab 5 in a couple of months, which has an 8.8 gaming Android with AES 2.0 pen support. Interesting. Um, what about iPad drawing? I'm stuck between Procreate and Clip Studio, and I am a beginner. I think if you're just a beginner, I would just go with Procreate. Because Clip Studio has that subscription cost, I think Procreate is a great place to start. My daughter, who has an iPad, she has only ever drawn on the iPad and she's only ever drawn in Procreate. And honestly, all her friends have iPads and all her friends draw in Procreate. That seems to be the way a lot of beginners go. Hi, Brad, fellow illustrator from Croatia. Woo! Good to see you, man. When will Affinity for iPad come out? That's a good question. I don't have any inside info on that. I don't know. I was going to go over some people. There's comments on this Procreate 6 to Mac thing. Some of these make sense. iCloud sync and undo history saved in the files would be amazing. Looking forward to both. Sounds interesting. I might keep my Mac if it gets all the riggings. It would be awesome if Procreate Mac had an option for schools to buy it as a cheaper non-subscription way and to get people hooked on Procreate earlier. My graphic design and entertainment art classes both have been angry at Adobe for quite a while. Procreate subscriptions for how much does Procreate cost? Isn't it like $12? Procreate iPad. $12.99. I don't know if you need a student pricing for that. That's kind of cheap. That's like 3 days of Adobe right there. I don't know if you need student pricing. Thank you for your continued stance on AI. It's really heartening to know that the team still respects artists in this way. It's really meaningful and really appreciated. 100% or 1000%. 1000%. Yeah. Created this account just for this. I have been praying for years. Finally, it is coming. Millions of artists who do not have an iPad yet still have a Mac will rejoice. I am so excited for Procreate Mac OS. So I guess there are people out there really excited about it. So that's good stuff. Last Procreate piece of news is Procreate Dreams 2.1. An update on this one. It says after the release of Procreate Dreams 2, we received a lot of positive feedback. I was one of the people. I think that update was hugely huge. I really liked it. A lot of things needed to improve on that, and I think they did it. Along with a ton of additional features requests internally, the Procreate Dreams team haven't stopped. The first new feature is ready to share. It is the new Liquid Flipbook prototype. Soon you will be able to move the flipbook to where you need it just to drag. While the design is implemented and unfinished, we're really excited to release this soon. Hold on, let me turn down the volume so I don't get copyright banged. Let's look at it. Oh, that's nice. That is a nice feature right there. Do it again. Do the scrubby thing again. I want to see the scrubby thing. Thank you. Oh, that's nice. I like that. All right, cool. Another new feature is we will be wrapping up the background filters along with being able to set any filter to an object. You will soon be able to apply any filter to the background of an object. Cool. Lastly, the biggest community request we're working on is Quick Shape. Yay! We're so keen to release this as soon as possible. And again, this goes back to like every feature that they make for Procreate Dreams that brings it into parity with Procreate makes total sense because basically the next version of Procreate, this Procreate 6, is going to be the Procreate Dreams engine. So they're basically recreating Procreate in Dreams and they're also bringing it to Mac. So it makes sense. Let's see what we got. Have you tried the iPad Mac connectivity recently, Brad? I have not. It's pretty good. Okay, maybe I'll have to go back. I was using Sidecar, and every so often I go back and use it, and I was not impressed. Part of the problem might be is I was using Photoshop to test it, and Photoshop just isn't that great at anything. So maybe I need to go to a real app and try it out. If you have both devices, I don't think it's worth having a separate drawing tablet unless ergonomics really don't work for you. Yeah, I agree. Even wirelessly, in my opinion, I I thought wirelessly it was even laggier, but yeah, again, I haven't tested in a while. I probably should have in my last review. It struck me as one of those features that Apple rolled out and just kind of forgot about and just didn't do a lot with. When do I come on live usually? So I am doing this time noon my time. So it's currently 12:45. So I've been doing this for 45 minutes now. But I'm doing Wednesdays at noon Eastern time US. So if you want to catch it, we're doing that. I'm also leaving these streams up. So if you want to watch them later, they will be there. And I may take this one and like clip it up a little bit and turn it into a real video for later this week. If the audio isn't too laggy. It's probably really laggy. We will see. Brad, you don't know how much college costs nowadays. Yes, I do. Yes, I do. I have a daughter who's a junior in college, and I am writing the checks for that. I'm very, very well aware. It's rough in here in the U.S. It's really hard. Procreate plus Mac Neo. It makes sense. Although Procreate plus Mac Neo is also going to need a multi-$100 drawing tablet to go along with it. We'll see how much this like new MacBook Pro costs. I think what are the entry level? Let's see, 14-inch MacBook Pro price. I don't know why I'm looking this up. Oh yeah, yeah. A MacBook Pro is going to cost you $1,800 or whatever. Yeah, whatever this new MacBook Pro is going to cost is going to be well over 2 grand. So forget that. Never mind. Yeah, MacBook Neo might be the way to go. Might totally be the way to go. I don't know if you reviewed it, but have you ever used the Supernote e-ink device to draw with? And I have not, but I know artists who do use it and they love it. So I probably should. That's the one. No, there's dozens of e-ink devices I haven't tried, but that's one that I haven't tried, but that I should. I think they wrote to me last year and asked me if I wanted to review one of their things, and I said maybe. I should I should write to them again. I still have to try Dreams. Do you foresee that they merge Dreams and regular Procreate once they mix their engines? Probably not. I think the release of Dreams, to me, I got the impression it was really to open up another app so they could make money because they sold everybody Procreate and now they need a new app to make money and to grow. That was my guess. Maybe that's cynical business hat on, but I don't think so. I think they're going to keep them as separate apps. Um, Oh yeah, you go on to say, not sure if it's worth the business standpoint. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I don't know if they will. Procreate plus Mac Neo plus Hui on Canvas 13 Gen 3. Yeah, that'd be the way to go. Because you're talking about what, $600 computer with a $250 device. Or maybe it's a $300 device. Yeah, the Canvas Gen 3. Man, what Huion is doing with their entry level things right now is really good. XP Pen, they need to. I wouldn't be surprised if the next gen of XP Pen stuff that comes out, their entry level stuff, their pro stuff is amazing, but they kind of need to up their game on their lower end things. Brad, Santa beard aside, you don't look old enough to have a college age child. Well, thank you. I really appreciate that. I am old enough. I'm well into my 40s now. Um, MacBook Pro M4 Max 16 is 3,700 euros. Yeah, this touchscreen MacBook Pro is, I said over 2,000. I need to readjust that. It's probably like 2,500 US. Yeah, that's what I'm going for. 2,500 US is what they're going to charge for this new MacBook Pro. I'm going on record. That's what I think it is. Canvas 13 Gen 3 doesn't have touch. That's true. That's true. I'm not going to get to the DLSS slap story today, but that's okay because we have some Krita 5.3 stuff to talk about. So we have Procreate 6 coming out soon, and we have Krita 6 that just came out. So today, this was yesterday, the 24th, there was a simultaneous release of Krita 5.3 and Krita 6.0. They're releasing both at the same time. And it may sound crazy. Like, why would you do that? What's going on? Well, what they're doing is they're rewriting Krita 6, kind of like Procreate is kind of rewriting a bunch of stuff under the hood. They're doing something similar with Procreate, and I don't understand all the Linux like terminology here, but basically they're saying both versions are almost functionally identical, with 6.0 having more Wayland functionality. And I think that's just a way of saying, actually, I Googled Wayland functionality, and it's just like under the hood stuff about how Linux handles image type things. Basically, Krita work better in future is what they're going at here. But note, since Krita 6 is still considered rather experimental, since our first release based on Qt6, there were way too many complicated changes between 5 and 6. For real work, please still use Krita 5.3. We expect 6.0 to become the main version of Krita before the end of the year, though. So it sounds like what they wanted to do was they wanted to release Krita 6.0 and have this big update, and they had a bunch of features ready, but they weren't quite ready to work on this new platform. At least they didn't work, and it wasn't as solid as they wanted it to be for people who are doing real work with it, and they don't want to screw people over because they're cool like that. Yeah, so that's what's up. So there's this video. So I'm gonna go ahead. Hold on. Can I make this video bigger? Yeah, I can make it bigger. Hold on. Let me zoom down. All right, let's watch this video. This has a bunch of the features that they're adding to Procreate or to Krita 5.3 here. Wow. What's new? What is new? Tell us. Edit text directly on your canvas. So it looks like there's some new text tool and some other stuff going on here. So that's cool. That's good stuff. Oh, they got style. We have some new text and shape. This is cool because you can add like a buffer around your text boxes. That will be nice. Text on a path. That's some good stuff. This is neat. We've seen. Is this the first time Krita has had a comic editing panel? I feel like they have before. I know Clip Studio has one. I know Medibang has one. I thought Krita had one. Maybe they did. Maybe they just changed it up. What is this? Transform box rotation. That's cool. This is cool. Pixel art stabilizer. Before, when you were drawing with a pixel brush in Krita, hold on, let me go back to that. It looked some of the stuff would like double up a little bit. And it looked a little wonky. But now the default pixel brush just it won't double up lines like when you're going around a corner and that sort of thing. So you won't get kind of fat edges, basically. So that's cool. That's really cool. Let's see what else we got here. Improved liquify performance. Fill tool close gap. Now this is something Procreate's working on for the next version. Closing that gap. Look at that. I guess that's what everybody needs now. This one's cool. So when you draw slow, it's freehand, and when you draw fast, it's stabilized. I'm gonna go back to that. Hold on. Let me go. Let's go back. This is really nice. So what happens when you add stabilization to a brush, like if you draw fast, or if you're just drawing, oftentimes it's hard to like do like nice peak edges. So if you draw like a hard edge and try to get a hard point, if you have a lot of stabilization on, the stabilization will oftentimes like round that off. And so what they're doing here is if you're drawing slow, the stabilization isn't like acting quite as much. So you can get that nuanced detail work. It's not going to loop it too much. But if you draw fast, so if you're drawing the outline of a character or something like that, and you want to get like the edge of their back or their arm or something like that, like a real speed line, that's when it's gonna stabilize it for you. Also, in general, when you draw faster, lines tend to be more stable anyway, which is kind of interesting. That's just the nature of the beast, to the nature of drawing. So, but it's cool. I think that's an interesting feature. I don't think I've seen that before. For 3D textures, propagate color filters. Okay. Dockers and pop-up palettes. So yeah, there's just more options in the docks and that sort of thing, and much, much more. Yay! So yeah, that is Krita 5.3 and Krita 6.0. There we go. Is the Canvas 13 Gen 3 worth it for $200 on Amazon at the moment? Yes. That is I love the Canvas 13 Gen 3 and the Canvas 16 Gen 3 are kind of identical to each other. They're just different sizes. Both of them were fantastic. I loved them. Don't worry, Brad. We can slop you talking about DSS with Sora. Okay, cool. Oh wait, they're dead. What did I miss here? Da, 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 da. Scrolling back here. Don't buy the Max in 14. You're gonna get thermal throttle often. Is that true? So here's the thing. I have not used a Max processor on a Mac at all. I have the Pro M1 that I'm still using. I don't know where my Mac is right now. It's down there. And the fans almost never go on. And I don't know if, and that's the Pro version of the chip. There's the standard chip, there's the Pro, and then there's the Max. Is there something between Pro and Max? I don't remember. Now the Max obviously is a much larger processor. It's more processor. Maybe it gets hotter. Maybe that's a problem. I don't. But the thing is with these things is they don't thermal throttle much. In my experience using these things, like my fans almost never come on my MacBook. Like 3 times in the 5 years that I've owned it, I've gotten those fans to turn on. Like if I'm processing a video, 4K video, like they don't turn on. Like it doesn't heat up that much. So maybe the Max processors do that more often. I wouldn't be surprised, but to get to the point where it would thermal throttle, I don't know if that's that big of a problem. Maybe it is. I don't know. How soon is soon for Procreate 6? You're going to have to wait till 2027. It's going to be a while. Oops, I scrolled too far. I just remember to like the stream. Someone remembered to like the stream. Yay! Thank you for liking the stream. Hello, Brad, longtime subscriber, 5 years, first time watching you on stream. Thank you. I have not streamed much. My last stream was last week, but the stream before that was like 3 years ago, and the stream before that was probably before you were a subscriber. So I do not stream much. It is something I'm experimenting with, and I'm going to be trying every Wednesday for the next few weeks, and just kind of getting my sea legs underneath me. And I said this at the beginning of the video, I'll say it again because there's probably a lot of new people in here, is that there's a lot of news that happens that isn't necessarily worthy of its own video. And so I thought it'd be fun to just kind of come on here, chat every week, cover some of the news that's going on for an hour, and just kind of chill, have fun. So that's why we're here. I own, oh no, I scrolled too far. Someone was talking about the Canvas though. I own one Canvas 13 Gen 3. It's a great device. Yes, I agree with Alex. I don't know where I ranked it in my end of 2024 video, but it was high. It was like number 2 or number 3 on my favorite devices of 2024. Just like how good of a screen you're getting and how good of a build quality, and you're getting like Huiyan's best pen, like at that price point. I was impressed. I was really impressed. I prefer the XP Pen 16 Pro, the newer one with the 16:10 aspect ratio. I actually have that right here hooked up right now. I love the XP Pen 16 Pro. It was my go-to under my desk for a while. Now it's sitting over here. It's just one of those tablets that I just keep around. I'm a fan of it. I think the thing I like about it, and it's a silly thing to like, is that it has the fold out feet, and so I can fold them up and it doesn't take up much room and I can stick it anywhere. And then when I need it, I can just kind of like pull it out and it's sitting on the ground. Also with this new microphone, if I had a normal monitor, the microphone's boom arm would totally cover up half of the market, would cover up way too much of the screen. But with the 16, I can just look down at it and I can see how the stuff is going. I am a fan. I'm a fan of the XP Pen 16 Pro. iPad Air M4 13 or 11 inch Ultra for the same price. Oh, the S11 Ultra for the same price. It depends. Okay, so when we're talking about Android versus iPad, my go-to answer is this. What kind of phone do you have? If you have an Android, go with the Samsung. If you have an iPhone or a Mac, go with the iPad. I know that like my daughter and her friends who use iPads to draw on, they all have iPhones, so it was just a very organic transition for them over to the iPad. But if you have an Android phone, it's just going to be an easier transition over to that. I use AstroPad with iPad and Mac for a tablet, but only when traveling. Yeah, and AstroPad is cool. I forgot about AstroPad because they do different things now. Like their software's still there. But yeah, I just got a package from AstroPad the other day, so might open that on stream sometime. Dream Creative B, how well that works, AstroPad plus Mac plus iPad, is it worth it? I think there's a little bit of lag there. It's kind of like using Sidecar. There were some cool features like for example, there was like you could turn on this like trail to your pen. So even if your pen when you were drawing had some lag to it, you could turn on this trail so it would like visually close the gap, which I thought was neat. It had some on-screen shortcuts. So like, you know, Photoshop does not have like an undo key or you can't tap to undo on Photoshop. So it added some of those on-screen Photoshop. So I thought AstroPad was pretty good. I forget what their price structure was like for their software though. I guess we should all say thanks to Toon Boom for the close the gap tools. First place I had seen it. Oh, yeah. I've never used Toon Boom, but yeah, that would make sense. Like for animation, that would probably be super helpful. Let's see what it hit. Have you heard anything about a Surface Pro 12 like the new 13-inch one? I have not looked into that. Yeah, no, I haven't heard or thought about it. The guy who used to do all the like who led the product at Microsoft for years and years and years left like 2 years ago, and he was responsible for doing like all the cool stuff like the Surface laptops, the Surface Go. He did he came up with the idea for that Surface, that giant iMac Surface thing that you could draw on. That, like, if it didn't use the Surface Pen, it would be amazing. It was also totally underpowered, but it was a cool idea. It was a beautiful screen. But that guy left, and the main reason he left is because Microsoft didn't really want to do exciting things on this hardware side anymore. They were like, let's just do some boring laptops. Let's just do some updates. Let's not do exciting things. Because he was doing stuff with like the Surface Phone, which was like the folding phone. There was a demo product that they never released, but they were talking about like as if it was a real product. I think it was called the Surface Neo, which was like this tablet computer that opened like that folding phone, but it was a computer that ran Windows. They had some wild ideas, but that guy left, and it sounds like the reason he left is because they like clipped his wings and they wouldn't let him experiment anymore. And so I haven't paid quite as much attention to the Surface line since in the last 2 years or so, because I mean, it's great to get new updates on that stuff, but it's just not as exciting as it used to be. I forgot how long. Oh yeah, Kate 13 Gen 3 is my number one small pen tablet recommendation. I completely agree. Completely agree. I forgot how long I've been subscribed for. I got an iPad Pro back in 2020 and watched years of you reviewing Samsungs to see how much Androids have been improving for artist use. Yeah, man, Android in general has improved so much. Um, it's kind of crazy. So something I'm going to be doing on this channel a lot, at least over the next few months, is I'm going to be experimenting a little bit. Um, just with some other products. I'm going to be diving into monitors and other things that creative illustrators, artists might be interested in, because people are watching the drawing tablet reviews less and less. Like that, people are just less interested in that. People are still really interested in iPads. People are still really interested in Android tablets, but like the reviews for like XP Pen and Huion and even Wacom have really fallen off in recent years. So it's been an interesting thing to kind of observe where the industry is going and what people are just interested in and what kind of videos they want and stuff like that. So yeah, I'm gonna be experimenting with some other things and seeing what other stuff people want to see reviews on over the next few months. Maybe some like more two-in-one type laptops. But yeah, yeah, interesting stuff. Android has come so far just in the last 3 or 4 years. It's amazing. I forgot. Oh wait, here, hold on. I bought my Moving Pro 14 from your reviews. Really good tablet. Needed the pen for grip to make sure that the pen is usable. Any idea if they improved instant pen display mode yet or not? Works good if wired. So if you're hoping that it works well unwired, I think this is just going to be a limitation of the technology. Like I think wired, it's just going to work much better than if you're using it on Wi-Fi, and that's just the nature of the beast. I think there's always going to be just a little bit of latency there. Um, I was impressed with how well it worked wired. I thought it worked better than the iPad that way. Uh, if Seven Pez says it, you must believe it. Yeah, I mean that's kind of how it is. There's certain people. If he says it, if Tio says it, like there's certain people where it's like, okay, I got it right. Like they're backing me up here. Uh, Live unboxing. Yeah, I might do some live unboxing because that's a smaller product. I think I might buy a couple other screen protectors off Amazon and do kind of like like screen protector video next month, because I don't have a lot of stuff to review. In 2009, Microsoft worked on a folding tablet codenamed Courier. That's what it was. Wait, 2009? That was a long time ago. I was thinking of a different one, the Surface Neo, I think it was called. Hey, Brad. Hey, how's it going? Courier was a wild prototype. I'll have to look into that. That was before my time. That was before I was paying attention to this stuff. To be fair, XP Pen, Wacom, and Huion have been making the same thing in a billion sizes for a while now. And that is exactly the case. Like, I think they're great products, but also when a new Huion comes along, it's like I reviewed this 22 that I'm reading off of here, and it's like just like the other ones that I reviewed, just bigger, it's the same refresh rate, the same screen resolution, just bigger. It's great. Pen works great. I love it. But it's not there's nothing new to talk about there, right? And I think that's part of it too. Although I would say the same thing about Android tablets. Like Android tablets all look the same now. They have the same squared off edges, aluminum backs, the same thing. But there's just a lot more interest in that category. And it could be that with Android tablets, it's drawing in a lot of audience outside who maybe aren't like necessarily in the art space, who are coming in to kind of learn more, or the illustration space. So it's kind of covering two audiences at once. Whereas the XP Pen Huion, definitely just for the drawing crowd. Hey Brad, can't someone take over Microsoft's O's with Linux base? I'm having a hard time talking. I need water. I think what you're asking here is, could someone come along with a Linux version and like take away user base from Microsoft? And I think the answer is yes. Will it happen in on like a business level? I don't know. I think the crack in the wall right now is gaming. With like what we're seeing with Steam OS, that's a Linux based operating system. It works extremely well in the Steam Deck. We're going to see how it works on larger hardware. I installed Bazite, which is a variation of SteamOS on my like home PC, like that I use for gaming. I have an NVIDIA card in there, so it doesn't work particularly well. But if you have AMD, it's supposed to work really well. So I think there is a ton of opportunity there. I think it's going to happen in the gaming space first, especially since people were discovering that Microsoft, like Windows in particular, actually was like losing them a few frames per second because Windows was running in the background and it bogs down your system. SteamOS was more efficient on the same hardware. So there's something there. That might be the crowd that it breaks for. And, just slowly erode that user base. Also, I look at kids today. My niece has a MacBook, and I was helping her with a school thing. Like, I don't know, she had some biology textbook, and nobody could figure out how to use these models that she was trying to use, and they had me. So they were like, "You understand the Mac? Look at this." And I was like, "Oh no, here we go." And I looked at her Mac, and it's been a long time since I've set up a new Mac. Actually, it's not true. I set up a new Mac a few months ago, but her Mac, like when I looked at the interface and how it's just set up by default, because it's like a little MacBook Air, it's like I couldn't find the Finder folder. Like I had to search the Finder, like search for the Finder, and then when I opened the Finder, it like did not look like my Finder setup. Like I was surprised at how much the Mac is trying not to be a computer, and how like that is just the default setup out of the box without touching anything. And she has been using this thing for 2 years, and she never needed a Finder window until that day. And it kind of blew my mind that she's using a computer every day and she's never opened Finder before. So this is an example of like generations of kids. Like this is the iPad generation. This is the phone generation coming up with this stuff. They don't necessarily need all that Windows cruft. They're used to working in a different way. So maybe these are the chinks in Microsoft's armor. Greetings from Mallorca. Did I pronounce that right? Is that Spain? I think it's like a beautiful place in Spain. It's not just normal Spain. It's like awesome Spain, like vacation Spain. Something running on Mac OS, but light enough and affordable enough for artists. As I mentioned to somebody else. Oh wow, Critic Transform tool updates are great. I was asking for a gizmo rotation for ages. Cool. Yeah, we were just talking about that. That is a cool new feature. Apple needs to make a MacBook Mini Neo with iPhone chips and sell it for $300 to $400. I think that's kind of what the Neo is. I hear what you're saying, like a Mac Mini, like without the screen, iPhone chips. I can see that. I can see that. Yeah. I think laptops for the normies out there makes so much sense because the screen's built in, you can carry it around, it's mobile. They're going to sell so many MacBook Neos, it's going to be crazy. They could totally run Mac OS on both iPhone and iPad, especially iPad, but I don't know if they want to cannibalize their base. Yeah, what was interesting is when they first came out, like when they were doing the transition from Intel to like the M series processors, like the first Mac minis that they released to developers so they could test out their software, they were running the same chip, which was like the A11 Pro. I might have the number wrong. A12 Pro, whatever the chip was at that time. It was the chip that was in the iPad. They stuck in a MacBook Mini or a Mac Mini, and they gave it to developers for a dev kit and said, test on this. Like, so they were using iPhone chips in Macs, and they have been for a long time. So this is totally possible. Yeah. So running an iPad is not that different than um, than a MacBook at this point. It's just the build is different. Imagine an iMac Studio with that Surface Studio hinge and a nano texture. Man, you're not the first person to imagine this. Like I'm picturing it now. Like take the Surface Studio, run Mac OS, I like Apple Pencil integration on that thing, being able to pull it down, that hinge. Apple, look at how much Apple charges for a hinge on just their studio displays. Like they would charge so much for that thing, but it would be cool. It would be so cool. Hi, Brad. Really enjoy your videos. Woohoo! Especially the glove dance. Nice. I appreciate it. Palma de Mallorca is an island in the Mediterranean. It's part of Spain. Okay, cool. Mallorca. Cool. Cool. All right, guys, it is 1 o'clock. It's past 1 o'clock. I'm going to log off. Thank you all for joining me. I'm going to try to fix my audio. I'm going to assume it's still lagging. Is my voice still lagging from the video? If you want to tell me in the chat before I log off, or is this something that just kind of fixed itself after I hit record? I don't know. But hopefully that's something that's going to be fixed. This is my second stream. And so there's just a lot to figure out. This is also my first time using this microphone, which I think might be the lag problem. So I got to figure that out. You had a ton of fun. Good. So did I. Good night. Have a good one. Yes, it's still lagging. Drat. Yeah, desynced. That sucks. All right. Well, thank you all for coming. I really appreciate it. The chat is awesome. Yeah, that's all I got. And I will talk to you guys in the future as soon as I hold on. I don't know how any of this works. Anyway, thanks for joining me. We'll log off this time. Have a great day, everybody, and I'll see you next Wednesday at noon.